much. Yo.
Iran once believed they controlled the Strait of Hormuz. They thought they held the world's most critical energy lifeline in an iron grip. But that illusion has now been shattered forever. For weeks, the Islamic Republic had been strangling one of the most vital waterways on the planet. High-speed missile boats raced through the narrow channel. Swarms of kamikaze drones filled the skies. Naval mines turned every shipping lane into a deadly gamble, and a vast underground network of anti-ship cruise missiles buried. Deep inside mountain bunkers and fortified tunnels stood ready to sink any vessel that dared to pass. Iran felt invincible. They believed they possessed the ultimate strategic leverage, the power to choke off nearly 27% of global seaborne oil and gas, cripple the world economy, and force Washington to its knees. Then the United States dropped a bomb that changed everything, literally. Not just any bomb, a brand new highly classified 5,000-pound advanced penetrator, so powerful and so precise that some military analysts are still debating whether this was its first true combat use. In a single devastating operation, American forces delivered multiple direct strikes on Iran's heavily fortified coastal missile sites along the Strait of Hormuz. The supposedly impregnable underground network that Tehran spent decades and billions building was left smoldering in ruins. The world's most important energy corridor is now fighting to reopen. But what exactly is this mysterious new weapon? How did it penetrate defenses Iran thought were untouchable? And what does this mean for the future of the conflict? Stay with us, because this is one of the most significant military developments of the entire war. And we're breaking down every single detail. On March 17th, the United States delivered a powerful and unmistakable message to Iran. The US Central Command CENTCOM publicly confirmed that American forces had conducted successful strikes using multiple 5,000-pound advanced bunker-busting bombs against Iran's heavily fortified missile positions along the BUMS, Strait of Hormuz. This was not a limited or symbolic operation. It was a direct, high-precision kinetic strike on sovereign Iranian territory, something rarely seen in recent decades. The targets were critical: coastal launch sites housing advanced anti-ship cruise missiles that had been actively threatening international shipping for weeks. Leading up to this strike, Iran had executed a highly effective blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. Using a multi-layered asymmetric strategy, they deployed swarms of high-speed missile boats, laid naval mines across key shipping lanes, launched waves of kamikaze drones, and maintained a sophisticated network of mobile and fixed anti-ship missiles on constant alert. The impact on global trade was immediate and severe. Daily commercial vessel traffic through the strait collapsed dramatically from more than 100 ships per day to just 3 or 4. At least 20 vessels were attacked or damaged in or near the waterway. Oil prices surged above $100 per barrel on multiple occasions, sending ripples of economic anxiety across the world. Iran had successfully weaponized the world's most important energy choke point. The narrow strait, just 21 miles wide at its narrowest point and responsible for approximately 27% of global seaborne oil and liquefied natural gas, had become a high-risk war zone. At the heart of Iran's confidence was their extensive underground missile infrastructure. These positions, buried deep inside mountains and reinforced concrete bunkers along the coastline, were built over decades to withstand sustained aerial bombardment. Tehran believed this network made their anti-access strategy virtually unbreakable. That belief was brutally shattered on March 17 in a carefully orchestrated Operation US. Forces penetrated and neutralized key segments of this supposedly impregnable underground network. What Iran had invested years and vast resources into constructing was proven vulnerable in a matter of hours. This strike represented a dramatic turning point in the conflict, exposing serious weaknesses in Iran's defensive strategy and opening the door to one of the most important military technology revelations of the entire war. At the center of this stunning operation was a single weapon that changed the entire battlefield equation: the GBU-72 Advanced Bunker Buster, a 5,000-pound precision-guided penetrator designed from the ground up to destroy deeply buried, heavily fortified targets. This was not an ordinary bomb. The GBU-72 represents the next generation of American deep strike technology developed specifically to replace the aging GBU-28, which had been the US military's primary bunker-busting weapon since its combat debut in the 1991 Gulf War. While the GBU-28 was impressive in its time, capable of penetrating roughly 15 feet of reinforced concrete or about 150 feet of densely packed earth, it was becoming obsolete against modern hardened underground facilities. Iran had spent decades and billions of dollars constructing exactly those kinds of facilities. Their coastal missile sites along the Strait of Hormuz were buried inside mountain tunnels and reinforced bunkers, some reportedly more than 50 to 100 feet underground, protected by layers of concrete and natural rock. Conventional bombs and even older penetrators simply could not reach them. Enter the GBU-72. The weapon combines a powerful BLU-138B penetrator warhead with the highly accurate Joint Direct Attack Munition JDAM guidance kit. This allows the bomb to be released from standoff distances, guided by a combination of GPS and inertial navigation, giving the launching aircraft the ability to stay well outside the range of Iran's remaining air defenses. Inside the warhead is a sophisticated explosive mix using AFX 757 and PBXN 109, the same high-performance formula found in America's massive 30,000-pound Massive Ordnance Penetrator MOP. This combination gives the GBU-72 significantly greater penetration depth and destructive power than its predecessor. But the real brilliance of the GBU-72 is not just how deep it can go, it is how it is used. Military planners realized that completely destroying an underground complex is often unnecessary. By precisely striking the tunnel, entrances, ventilation shafts, and access corridors, the weapon can collapse critical pathways and trap everything inside. What was once a fortified launch site becomes a sealed tomb, The missiles, launchers, and personnel below ground are rendered completely useless without ever being directly hit. This tactical approach proved devastatingly effective. In one coordinated strike package, American aircraft delivered multiple GBU-72 against key nodes in Iran's underground missile network. The results were immediate and decisive. Whether this was the GBU-72's absolute first combat use remains a point of discussion among analysts. Some reports suggest it may have been employed against Houthi targets in Yemen as early as 2024. But the March 17 operation against Iranian territory marks its confirmed debut against a peer-level hardened target on a nation-state's sovereign soil. What cannot be debated is the technological leap this weapon represents. It is a pure product of American engineering, ingenuity, designed, tested, and fielded by the US military-industrial base to maintain dominance in an era of increasingly sophisticated underground warfare. Iran believed its mountain bunkers were untouchable. The GBU-72 proved they were wrong. And here is the biggest plot twist of the entire conflict: Iran's entire master plan, and by extension, the broader Iran-China-Russia axis strategy, has just become completely useless. For weeks, Tehran believed they held the ultimate trump card. By weaponizing the Strait of Hormuz, they thought they could strangle nearly 27% of the world's seaborne energy supply, drive oil prices through the roof, and create enough global economic pain to force Washington to abandon its campaign. Their strategy was simple but ambitious: turn the narrow waterway into an unbreakable no-go zone using speedboats, drones, mines, and especially their deeply buried anti-ship missile network. They were convinced their mountain bunkers and underground tunnels were untouchable. They had spent decades and billions engineering what they believed was an impenetrable A2AD anti-access area denial fortress. In their calculations, the United States would eventually blink. The economic pressure would become unbearable. America would have no choice but to negotiate on Iran's terms. That calculation just collapsed in spectacular fashion. In a matter of hours, a handful of 5,000-pound GBU-72 penetrators did what entire fleets of conventional aircraft and cruise missiles could not. They didn't just damage the missile sites, they rendered the entire underground network operationally irrelevant. Entrances collapsed, access tunnels were sealed. Launchers that once represented Iran's greatest strategic advantage are now trapped forever beneath tons of rock and rubble. The very weapon Iran feared most, American airpower, had found the one vulnerability their engineers never fully accounted for. All those years of planning, all those billions invested in underground infrastructure, all those confident declarations that the Strait of Hormuz was now Iranian-controlled, gone, and the implications stretch far beyond Tehran. This was not just Iran's war. It was a proxy test for the entire resistance axis. Russia and China had quietly backed Iran's strategy watching to see if the Hormuz blockade could successfully challenge American dominance in global energy choke points. They wanted proof that asymmetric warfare and hardened underground facilities could neutralize US technological superiority. What they witnessed instead was the exact opposite. One American weapon designed and built in secrecy just exposed the fatal flaw in the entire anti-access doctrine that Iran, Russia, and China have spent years perfecting. The master plan did not merely fail, it backfired so completely that it has left Iran strategically naked and the broader axis visibly shaken. The illusion of invulnerability that Tehran had carefully cultivated for decades was shattered in a single afternoon. Washington did not stop at the bombs. In a display of raw, overwhelming power, the United States responded with brutal efficiency and unmistakable resolve. While the GBU-72 strikes were still sending shockwaves through Iran's underground network, American carrier strike groups and guided missile destroyers surged into the Gulf, positioning themselves for immediate follow-on operations if needed. These naval assets were not there for show. They provided real-time intelligence, electronic warfare support, and the constant threat of additional firepower should Iran attempt to reimpose its blockade. This was not a one-off air campaign. It was a coordinated multi-domain operation designed to make one thing crystal clear. America would not tolerate any disruption to freedom of navigation through the Strait of Hormuz. President Trump delivered the message in the bluntest possible terms. He issued a 48-hour ultimatum. Iran must fully reopen the strait to all international shipping without selective harassment or enemy-linked restrictions, or face direct strikes on its national power grid, the infrastructure that keeps the entire country running. The threat was deliberate and escalatory. It signaled that the United States was prepared to move beyond military targets and strike the very heart of Iran's civilian infrastructure if necessary. Iran's trap had backfired completely. What Tehran had intended as a brilliant asymmetric strategy, using the strait as economic leverage to force American concessions, was now exposed as a catastrophic miscalculation. Instead of weakening Washington's position, the blockade had provoked the precise response. Iran feared most direct, high-precision American intervention backed by overwhelming naval presence. The very choke point Tehran tried to weaponize had become the stage for a dramatic demonstration of US military superiority and political will. By neutralizing the underground missile network and flooding the region with carrier-based airpower and destroyers, Washington did more than just reopen a shipping lane. It reaffirmed a core strategic principle. Freedom of navigation through international waterways is a non-negotiable American interest. Any attempt to close or control these global commons will be met with decisive force. The message was received loud and clear across the region and beyond. Allies breathed easier. Adversaries took note. For the first time in weeks, the world's most critical energy artery began to show signs of life again. Not because Iran chose mercy, but because the United States had made the cost of defiance prohibitively high. The global implications of this strike reach far beyond the Strait of Hormuz. What happened on March 17 was not merely a tactical victory. It was a strategic earthquake that has begun to reshape the international order. The illusion of a rising multipolar world has been dealt a severe blow. Iran's aura of regional dominance has been shattered. The regime that once boasted it could close the world's most vital energy artery at will now stands strategically exposed. Its decades-long investment in underground missile networks hailed as an unbreakable shield, has been neutralized in hours by American technology. Tehran's grand strategy of economic coercion through the strait has collapsed completely, leaving the Islamic Republic weaker and more vulnerable than at any point in recent memory. This defeat sends a sobering message to Iran's key partners in Moscow and Beijing. For years, Russia and China have heavily invested in similar anti-access strategies and hardened underground facilities, betting they could challenge US dominance without direct confrontation. They viewed Iran's Hormuz operation as a live-fire test of whether such doctrines could succeed. The result has been devastatingly clear. Even the most sophisticated underground networks are no longer safe when America chooses to act. The broader fantasy of authoritarian great power resurgence is crumbling. The idea that multipolarity would allow Iran, Russia, and China to control critical global choke points and rewrite the rules without consequence has been exposed as a dangerous delusion. American resolve remains the ultimate enforcer of international order. In the next 72 hours, the world will see the true fallout. Intelligence indicates shipping through the strait may resume within days. Iran now faces a stark choice: genuine de-escalation or risk far more devastating strikes on its national power grid. Meanwhile, NATO allies are accelerating joint patrol plans, and Israel is reportedly fast-tracking acquisition of the GBU-72. The era in which Iran believed it could close the Strait of Hormuz without catastrophic cost has officially ended. And with it, a much larger illusion of invincibility held by America's adversaries may finally be beginning to fall apart. In the end, one weapon changed everything. A single 5,000-pound American bomb just shattered Iran's illusion of control over the Strait of Hormuz and exposed the fatal weakness in the entire anti-access strategy of the resistance axis. The era in which Iran believed it could close the world's most critical energy artery without paying a catastrophic price is now officially over. So here's the big question. Do you think Iran will truly back down and reopen the strait? Or is this just a temporary tactical retreat before they try again? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. If this breakdown helped you understand what's really happening, smash that like button, share it with anyone who needs to see it, and subscribe with notifications on so you never miss the next major update. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.